today I think we're going to talk a little bit about the definition of evolution because, I get into these little debates here on YouTube, and really it's primarily over the definition of evolution because you can never really nail that down, apparently. See, when I was in school, which, wasn't too terribly long time ago, in the 90s, I was doing the school thing, and, back in the 90s, the dinosaurs were known as a fact to be 30 million years old. So I'll just throw that out there. Okay, now I come and I find out that no, the dinosaurs are really 65 million years old. So in the last 20 years or so, they've gained about, a little over a million years per real year is the age. And magically, everything else in the age of the rocks and all these other critters, they all, lined up with that perfectly. That's a little bit of a jump, a 200% increase in the age of something, right? So I'll just wanted to mention that as a little fact. But what also has evolved with the age of the dinosaurs is the definition of the word evolution. Now, evolution, the word itself, is a word that is not a scientific word, okay? Evolution is a word that's been around a good old long time. It means to go from a simple form to a more complex form. And that's why they call it Darwinian evolution, and that's why they use that term, is because it's going from a one-celled organism to everything you see around you. So it's the perfect term to describe their naturalistic belief in evolution. That's what it is. But I find that if you actually use that definition, nobody likes that when they want to talk about evolution because, hey, guess what? There isn't any proof that that actually happens. So that's kind of a problem. So what do? Well, they just change the definition and they say, well, in biology, it's a theory that the differences between modern plants and animals are because of the changes that happen by natural process over a very long time. So it means nothing. That's what the definition of evolution officially means. Shit changes. And here it says right here, process of slow change and development. That tells me nothing. Okay, the definition of evolution can be whatever the heck they want it to be. That doesn't mean anything, process of slow change and development. Process of what? What are they talking about? Process of slow. What does that mean? My car goes under a slow change and development process too. It calls breaking down, it rusts. So by all definitions of evolution here, my car is going through evolution. I just want, there isn't anything I can do because this is a brainwashing kind of thing. So I'm never ever going to convince any people who believe this definition of evolution that it's completely bogus. Okay? Number one, science does not have the right to change the definition of the word because it's not a science word. Now, if you want to change the definition of, say, thermodynamics or a Gaussian effect or something, by all means you can do that because those are words that are invented by the science community. That's why they have their own dictionary. Do people not realize this? Now, see, I'm an English major kind of guy. I know about the English language. The reason for these differences between, your definition books, your science definitions, your medical dictionary, and the regular one, is because they change the medical dictionary definitions all the time. It's a work in progress. The regular English dictionary, or whatever dictionary in whatever language, are words that have been in use and meant the same darn thing for eons, right? Now, people will use the words in different ways, and gradually your definition will evolve slightly over time. But see, this is where you get these little number points, where they have slightly different definitions depending essentially on where the time period is that you're dealing with them. So if we look under the common today biology definition, that means nothing for evolution. It means something changes. Ooh. Okay. The first one here is one set of prescribed movements. Whatever. Okay, that may be a scientific definition. I don't even know what that means either. A process of change in certain direction. Oh, so this one is getting a little bit more specific now. So evolution, the definition, means from change to simple to complex, but the biological definition now, I guess, means change in one way or the other. It's one of them. We don't know. The act or instance of forming and giving something off. Emission. See, I would never use evolution in what it's saying here because they're giving you a better term for it. So this really doesn't make any sense. The process of continuous change from a lower, simpler, or worse to a higher, more complex, or better state. Now see, this right here in C is the actual definition of evolution. They hide it down here. And then they put a 1 next to it, meaning this is where it should be number 1. But we moved it, and we put it under a different classification, under process of change in a certain direction. We'll put it under there and hide it so nobody can find it. We don't want it up here in the blue. We just want shit changes up here. We don't want the real definition to be up there because we can't prove this. We can't prove this in a biological sense. It's never been shown to happen, ever. Process of continuous change from a lower, simpler, or worse to a higher, more complex, better state. Never, ever happens. Ever. So this is the definition here that I learned in school. It's still in the dictionary. So all of you people out there telling me that I don't know what the definition of the word is, you're out of your minds, you don't know how to read, you never used a dictionary. And for those of you wondering, it's Merriam-webster. Webster's Dictionary. Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay? Here it is, right here on the screen. Because I'm sick and tired of copying and pasting this. I'm sick of it. Go get your own dictionaries. Jiminy Cricket. So, the biological definition for evolution means change. Shit changes. Great. The real definition is moving from simpler to more complex. This is part of the definition. So you can just say stuff changes. That's fine. You still have to go from simple to complex, okay? You can keep your stuff changes. You can say adaptation is just a small part of evolution. Okay, fine. You still have to show somewhere where something goes from simple to complex. It's unavoidable. I'm not going to argue adaptation with you. You can have adaptation. I don't care. Show me an instance where one thing goes from simple to complex. It does not happen. Doesn't happen at all. Now, if we want to talk about the English dictionary, we can go down here to something evolved. And we'll go click on evolved. Here's the root word for the noun. This is the verb form of it. Okay, this is the English language definition. To change or develop slowly, often into a better, more complex, or more advanced state. To develop by a process of evolution. This is the English language, okay? This isn't any medical dictionary, whatever BS we can change the definition of. You don't get to have that because evolve is an English language word, or it goes back to whatever language the English people got it from, but this is a word that is not definitive to science. This is not a science-only word. And even if it was, you still have this problem. It gets its root from change to simple to complex. So all you people that want to argue it just means change, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. You're not going to find a dictionary anywhere that evolution is just going to say change. Because, hey, guess what? It wouldn't be Darwin's theory of evolution. It would be Darwin's theory of change. Doesn't that make sense? So, now that we've cleared that up, I wanted to briefly mention this thing here with what that would mean. What that means, you must go from simple to complex, okay? So you can have all the evidence in the world you think you have. I mean, I'm not going to argue every stupid little freaking point about people talking about bacteria, this and that. It's still bacteria. You're saying it's evolving into a new type, fine, whatever. Show me where stuff comes from. At the beginning, you've always got a creator at some point. Do you want to say evolution happened? Okay, how did it happen without a creator? Plain and simple. You must go from simple to complex. Where's the evidence? If everything evolved in a slow, simple, short forms, little itty tiny bits over billions of years, then there should be billions of fossils of intermediate stages, because they're probably not going to live as long as a fully functional, fully formed critter. So they should be dead things all over the place. I know why that is because you only get fossils when things are buried quickly, where predators can't eat them. We don't have fossils today. That might say that there could have been a flood at some point, but it's just throwing that out there. Back to the simple to complex thing. Now, what do people think when they think of the very first life form? What are you going to get? You got your wet rocks and your amino acids and crap forming. They're going to think of probably some form of bacteria. So some form of bacteria created all life on Earth. Some kind of one-celled organism that had this super ability that nothing else has ever had since to form everything on the planet. Fine. We'll look at everyone thinks this is going to happen all at once too. I mean, that's the way I thought. That's the way it's taught, right? Is all of a sudden a cell forms. Well, now that we know through microbiology that a cell is not just a little blob that lives because the amino acids are thrown together in the correct order, just happenstance. No, every cell has all of these different structures that can't exist without the other structures. So what you really have is you need amino acids coming together by random chance to form the flagellum for swimming around and moving. You need a different set of bacteria coming together to perform the function of a cell wall. You need a different set of bacteria to randomly form a cell membrane, a different set of bacteria to randomly form the cytoplasm, or amino acids, not bacteria. The amino acids, building blocks to make all this stuff come together. And you need you need receptors for each of these so everything can talk to each other. That's a whole nother thing. And, it's not just the process of random chance to create a single cell. And that's the way that it's proposed, is that, well, it rained on the rocks for a long time. You got puddles of goo, and then, cells formed. Whoa. A cell is an incredibly complex structure that has many, many different types of information in it, many different types of structures. So you can't just go from nothing to one cell. You got to show how the cell itself was even formed. You have a problem of irreducible complexity and a chicken and egg problem. Some of these things have to form simultaneously by chance. As a matter of fact, I would say that probably hundreds of things need to happen simultaneously by chance that form completely different structures. Completely different. How the heck do you explain that without a creator? And then you get, well, evolution's not abiogenesis, blah, blah, blah. Well, yes, it is. You got to start somewhere. Where are you going to start? You're going to start with the first life form? How did you get to the life form? So we got some problems here with the old definition of evolution. You're going to tell me that evolution, the definition, is just shit changes. Well, how do you get from this thing right here? This is a bacteria. The simplest bacteria, one-celled organism that you can get, which would make sense to me that it would be something like the first life form. Maybe an amoeba. They got amoebas around here too. I could look one of those up, but it doesn't matter. They still all have the same functions. Every cell has the same stuff in it that are totally different, completely different chemistry involved there. So the conditions that might be right for forming the proteins to do, say, a cell wall are not necessarily going to be the same proteins they're going to need to do the cytoplasm. It's a totally different random chance for cytoplasm. Totally different random chance to do your flagellums. A totally different random chance for the cell wall. Totally different random chance for a cell membrane. And all of these have to talk to each other, which is another chemical process. This is advanced chemistry. You know, this is why people cannot produce this stuff in a lab. It's incredibly complex. And to say that, boom, by chance a cell formed is retarded. It's absolutely retarded. And I have a video by Walter Vaith on my channel that's, Darwin is in the title of it, you know, proving Darwin or something to that effect. Walter Vaith he taught evolutionary biology. The guy is a chemist and a zoologist, and he taught evolutionary biology. Until there was a guy like me in his class that said, well, what about this, that, and the other thing? And he couldn't answer him. So we went off to go study and figured out that, hey, he's been teaching lies all this time. And rather than risk his integrity, he didn't want to give up his integrity for his paycheck, so he resigned and started, figuring out what was going on. The only conclusion you have, if random chance does not solve this problem here, you don't just random chance your ass into a frickin' cell. You have to random chance your way into every single component that makes up a cell, because they're all completely different. All of them are completely different. So you have to have some creation here. You got some chicken and egg problems. Now the creationist is going to say, well, it was all created at the same time. You have no chicken and egg problem. There's no such thing as a chicken and egg problem. The chicken and the rooster were created at the same time. So there you go. That's where your eggs come from. Creationist mind it's simple. And you could say that that's a non-answer or something to that effect, but so what? Science doesn't have to, you don't have to explain everything that's around you. I think that's why that stuff was put in the Bible, is so you'd at least have an answer to how things are the way that they are. There isn't any other way to explain it. Things come into existence. You have irreducible complexity like this. You don't just have random chances going to give you a cell. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So my old school ways from 1990s of my definition of evolution is a correct definition. You may not like it because you can't prove it. And I'll say that, I've never believed in evolution simply because of this stuff. Okay? I've never, even back in the 90s when it was there wasn't anyone saying anything against it. Because it was stupid. The idea that everything comes from a puddle of goo and everything is random chance, that is the silliest shit I have ever heard. Okay? It's complete garbage. I can see things adapting. I can see creatures that look like each other adapting. Back at the time, I didn't have any problems with mammals turning into different sorts of animals through sexual reproduction. Then you learn that, nothing can really reproduce with each other. Only very close species can actually reproduce. And it's like, well, then there's kind of a problem there. I never believed necessarily in religion or what they were saying. I didn't really know much of anything about it. And I didn't care. I would be considered an agnostic. I certainly didn't believe everything came from a one-celled organism at one time. That's retarded. That is lacking intelligence to believe that, because there is no evidence for it. None. At least the Bible's got something. It has prophecy in there where it predicts the future. Who else is going to be able to do that except God? Right? There's something. I realize the Bible isn't a science book, but there are science facts in there. So this is what we got here. And, with this evolution thing and everything coming from one cell, that begs the question of asking, we'll take dogs. Everyone uses dogs, so I'll use dogs. Who wants to tell me what the most advanced and least advanced dog is? Who's the most evolved out of the dog species? Can somebody tell me that? You kind of have to, it makes sense from a logic standpoint in evolution that every animal you look at, you'll have a state of evolution. Which one's the most evolved? Which one's the least evolved? And that's going to be true for humans also. So who's going to tell me which humans are most evolved and which ones aren't? I got a couple of guys who'll tell me. Joseph Stalin will tell me. Adolf Hitler will tell me. Do you see the problem here with this stuff? Do you see what it leads to? I never believed any of that, and I wasn't a Christian then. It's stupid. And the people that will just say, well, I paid money for my science professor to tell me this stuff, he's getting paid to tell you that stuff too. Why don't you listen to some of these people who have lost their careers, their livelihood, for saying this stuff is garbage and telling the truth? Aren't they a little bit more reliable for information when they have something to lose by not selling themselves out? Huh? Someone whose integrity is actually more important to them than the almighty dollar? Aren't they a little bit more trustworthy, maybe? So, that's about all I have. I want to keep this nice and short. You people's definition for revolved of shit changes is absolute garbage. And if you want to be that intellectually dishonest and say that that's what evolve really means, I feel bad for you. Merriam-webster says you're wrong, right? Completely wrong. And with that, I guess I'm going to be out.